All right, hello and welcome. And today I'm going to be talking to you about our lab's work on landscaping flammability in Santa Barbara's wildland-urban interface. So first I'm going to introduce our team. So I am Christina Fauss, and our other two grad students are Robert Fitch and Indra Boving, and our undergraduate is Joe Celebrezzi. Our community partner for this project is the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden. Our project advisor is Dr. Max Moritz, and initial funding for this project came from the Wonder Labs organization. So again, today I'll be going through wildfire in Santa Barbara County very briefly, defensible space, living with fire and our project goals, and the next steps for this project. This is showing areas of high fire risk in Santa Barbara County. And you may have heard of this term called the wildland-urban interface, and that's where communities in Santa Barbara County start blending into native vegetation. And often these WUI communities occur in areas of high fire risk. So there are 26 communities at risk in Santa Barbara County. So in response to that, the county has come out with this idea of defensible space that you are probably very familiar with by now. And this is looking at your property and how you can manage the vegetation around your home to protect your home from wildfire. And ultimately, this has led into this idea of fire-safe plants. And what our group is doing is we are looking at this idea of fire-safe plants and asking the question if there are actually plants that can be labeled as fire-safe, or if we need to be thinking more about maintenance and watering and spacing. So next we have this figure looking at understanding human relationships with fire. And going through this, our project goals come out of this idea. So our first goal is to identify plants used in landscaping in the wildland-urban interface. Then we're going to look at how people value and engage with these plants. And then we're going to test these plants for their flammability characteristics, and then give that information back to the community, mostly through the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden, but we are always looking for ways to kind of directly interact with our neighbors and everybody who lives out here about these topics. So first we're looking at this plant selection process. So this is how we chose the plants to test in our study. So we did this community survey where we had written responses and photos, and then consulted with the Botanic Garden to narrow down all of those great responses into a final list for testing. And out of that came 10 plants that we will ultimately put through flammability testing, including California sagebrush, coastal live oak, Swan's neck agave, and Howard McMinn manzanita. And then our goal too was to look at how people value and use the plants in their landscaping. And we found that most people in Santa Barbara County value their plants from a cultural or a regulating perspective. So our third goal is to actually test these plants for flammability. And here are just a couple figures or pictures of our flammability test chamber that we will use to test these plants. And very exciting, in this new round of testing, we will be collecting heat flux information and information about the smoke that comes off of these burning plants. And the first round we'll be looking at is well-watered plants, and we will compare that to droughted plants. So looking at the difference between plants that are well maintained and well taken care of and plants that are dry and crispy, and see how that varies across these different species. So in conclusion, our next steps are to actually do this flammability testing. And then very importantly, we want to develop materials to share with the community and promote a two-way community conversation about these topics. What information do people need, and how can we best serve the needs of the community with this research?